one of the things, speaking of governors and doing things about the coronavirus, one of the stories we wanted to touch on is all the governors that are releasing prisoners from jails and prisons, and they're calling them nonviolent offenders and low-risk offenders. But, we've seen stories, we've seen almost 1,000 people, and that was a week ago, were released from New York State prisons. And, there have also been a bunch released in other states like Washington and California. And the answer that they're giving as to why would you do this? Why are you setting the prisoners loose on the streets? And it's because, they might get COVID-19. They might get the coronavirus if we leave them in jail. And it's like, might they not get the coronavirus if you let them out of jail? And now we've got criminals on the streets. I saw a story out of Washington State where they had a guy who actually pleaded guilty to first-degree child molestation, and because he's currently awaiting sentencing and hasn't been sentenced yet, they've released him on his own recognizance. So they've just released him back into the community. Hey, listen, it was his first offense. He just molested it's a 65-year-old man, just molested a 10-year-old girl. When he was ready to be tried, he was in jail on a $50,000 bond. But now that he's already been convicted, he's pleaded guilty. Instead of sentencing him, we're going to let him out now into the community. Where do you think this guy is going to go? And by the way, I'm not even sure, let's just say I don't know if he could maybe leave the country. I know a lot of people facing a lengthy jail sentence would look to try to maybe leave the country. And, I don't know if that's possible for him. But let's just say the news article went so far as to say this is the first conviction that he has in this country. So now this is a Washington State newspaper. They're very politically correct up there. So what do you think they're really telling you about this guy? Maybe he's not even here legally. And if he's not here legally and they just let him out of jail, isn't he going to make a run for the border? Isn't that what we'd expect?
You brought up the very logical point that you could get it in jail and you could get it outside of jail as well. But what about for those who are being released? It's not exactly an opportune time to get back out and find a job.
Yeah, what are they going to do for work? Where are they going to live? Well, what are you going to do? You can't make any money. And you already know folks that have served time, they have a hard time getting a job. They have a hard time reintegrating into society. What about now when all the businesses are shut down? Nobody's hiring. You need some short order cooks? No. You need some delivery people? No. Don't really need anything right now. In fact, what we need right now is a handout from the federal government so we can even just keep paying people for their jobs. And that's what's supposed to be coming with this Paycheck Protection Program. But, there's this concept, and I've seen an article out there that talked about this, and it was a concept I kind of wanted to explore and open up into our Out There segment, and that is the concept of demonic possession and some kind of demonic influence with this coronavirus. Now, that's a pretty out there concept, but like I said, we've already seen articles coming out in religious-oriented publications, specifically Catholic publications, that we've seen articles coming out about there being some kind of demonic influence involved in this coronavirus thing. And I just think it's very interesting to think about. Obviously, modern science says that those types of things don't exist. And, maybe they do and maybe they don't. Like the president says, maybe it's real and maybe it's not real. It's hard to know. I can tell you there are exorcists in the Catholic Church who believe it's real. In fact, there's a book coming out fairly soon. The book is called, we actually got a pre-publication copy of the book to preview and talk about on the show. And the book is called The Devil is Afraid of Me. And it's all about the Vatican's top exorcist for many, many years. He died a few years ago, but his name was Father Gabriel Amorth. And he was the top exorcist. And apparently he's performed something like 100,000 or more exorcisms during his lifetime. It's hard to even believe that. Of course, when we're thinking of exorcisms, we're thinking of what we've seen in Hollywood, which is like a multi-hour, multi-day process, right? And apparently that's part of it. And so one of the ways that he's performed so many is one of the things about the nature of the exorcisms is that you have to perform them multiple times. So you might see somebody who's got some kind of possession every day for months or maybe even years, or once a week for months or maybe even years, et cetera, et cetera. But there are some publications coming out that are saying, and they're interviewing priests and other people, and they're saying, there is a heavy demonic influence involved in this coronavirus thing. And just think about it. I mean, just think about the nature of it. One, they've closed all the churches. People can't even go to church now. Yeah, I know you can go via Zoom meeting, but you know how connected do you feel and how much attention do you pay when you go to church via Zoom? It's not the same, right? And something that happened in our own Bay Area exactly a week ago, right after we got off the air, in fact, or we would have reported on it, is they went and they arrested a pastor. They arrested Rodney Howard Brown, who's the senior pastor and founder of the River Church, which is out there in Mango. If you're not familiar with it, it's kind of an evangelical church out there in Mango. It's quite a large church. They've got a big auditorium, and they were still holding services. And in fact, they held services a week ago Sunday. And then Chad Chronister, the sheriff, came out and said, no, you can't do that. We've banned gatherings of more than 10 people. And you're flaunting that order. Forget about the First Amendment. Forget about freedom of religion. You're flaunting the government's order that no more than 10 people can gather, and we're taking you to jail. So we're letting child molesters, admitted convicted child molesters, out of jail because, oh my gosh, they might get sick in jail. And we're letting thousands of other people, convicted criminals across the country, out of jail because they might get sick, but we're jailing pastors for conducting religious services in this country. Now, you talk about a demonic influence, and wouldn't that be exactly what a demonic influence would try to accomplish? And that's what we see playing out before us. So we're going to continue this Out There segment when we come back on The Morgan Streetman Show. Thank you for listening to The Morgan Streetman Show. We hope you enjoyed what you heard, and if you did, please click like and subscribe to help us out. And remember that we recommend that you exercise your brain at least once a week.